So, good morning everyone. For today, I will be presenting our storytelling. But before we begin, we will be having a role-play presentation. So, can you say lights, camera, action with me? Okay. Lights, camera, action!
Will you be my dance with a ball?
No.
Please, I'll do everything for you.
I said no.
Please, please. Just give me a chance.
Fine. Give me a red rose.
But where will I find the red rose?
So, what do you think happened? Will the student find the red rose? For today, we will be telling a story entitled The Nightingale and the Rose by Oscar Wilde. As the nightingale sits in her nest in an oak tree, she overhears a student speaking mournfully about his sweetheart, who has said she will not dance with him unless he brings her a red rose. While the nightingale watches, the student begins to cry, lamenting the fact that all his learning is useless since it can't win him the girl's love. His beauty and sorrow, however, impressed the nightingale, who has spent all her life singing about an idealized true lover. The student continues to bemoan his unrequited love, imagining in great detail how the girl will pass by him at the prince's ball unless he finds him a red rose. Meanwhile, the nightingale reflects on how powerful and priceless a force of love is. The other animals and plants in the vicinity, however, do not understand why the student is crying over a red rose. But the nightingale understood the secret of the student's sorrow. The nightingale decides to help the student and flies to the center of the garden to speak to the white rose tree and ask him for a red rose. But he tells her that he has none and directs her to his brother by the sundial. Accordingly, the nightingale visits the yellow rose tree, but he also disappoints her, advising her to try the rose tree underneath the student's window. When the nightingale states her case to the red rose tree, he confirms that his roses are red, but says that he cannot grow one in winter. But the winter has chilled my veins, and the frost has nipped my buds, and the storm has broken down my branches, and I shall not have roses at all this year. The nightingale presses him, however, and he eventually admits that there is a possible solution by singing as she impales herself on one of his thorns. The nightingale can bring a rose into bloom and dye it with her own blood. Although it pains the nightingale to sacrifice the joys of life, she agrees to the rose tree's pleasure. Yet love is better than life. And what is a heart of a bird compared to the heart of a man? Her mind made up, the nightingale flies back to the student and tells him the good news, asking simply that he honor her by her sacrifice by being a true lover. The student cannot understand what she is saying, but the oak tree asks her to sing one more song before she dies. After the nightingale sings, the student criticizes her performance, saying that it is stylistically impressive but emotionally shallow. In fact, she is like most artists. She is all style without any sincerity. What a pity it is that they do not mean anything or do any practical good. He then returns to his home where he falls into romantic reveries and eventually fell asleep. When evening falls, the nightingale flies to the rose tree and perches against the thorn. As the moon listens, she begins to sing about young love, causing a few indistinct petals to appear on the tree. Warning the day is fast approaching, the rose tree tells the nightingale to press herself further into the thorn. The nightingale continues to sing, this time about mature, romantic love. and the rose begins to turn pink. As the nightingale continues to sing, it becomes clearer and clearer that she is dying not so much for any practical care of lovers, but more for love as an ideal. Her song strays a kind of hierarchy of love, moving from youthful infatuation through marriage to sacrificial love. Appropriately, it is only this last highest form of love that can put the finishing touches on the rose. The rose tree encourages the nightingale to press closer one last time. Although rapidly weakening, she sings about sacrificial and undying love as all of nature listens on. The rose reddens and the rose tree tries to tell the nightingale that she has succeeded. Sadly, however, she is already dead. Hours later, the student looks outside his window and sees the rose. Delighted, he says that it is the most beautiful flower he had ever seen. A wonderful piece of luck. The student plucks the rose and takes it to the girl at her father's house. When he arrives, the girl is sitting outside spinning silk, and the student presents her with a flower, saying she will wear it at the evening ball. The girl, however, objects that the rose does not match her dress, and that she is in any case prefers the jewels she recently received from the chamberlain's nephew. In response, the student huffs that the girl is ungrateful and throws the rose into the street to be run over by a cart. The girl retorts that the student is rude, making fun of his relative poverty for storming into her house. As the student walks away, he thinks about how irrational and impractical love is and concludes that he would be better off devoting his time to studying philosophy. He therefore returns to his room and begins to read from an old book. And that ends the story of The Nightingale and the Rose by Oscar Wilde.